Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Learning Cafe for opening and closing memberships. My name is Cody, and this is Megan. We work in the Client Services and Education team here at CU Answers. Today's class is expected to last between 1 hour and 1 hour and 30 minutes. So to facilitate any questions you have during the broadcast, just hover over the bar at the bottom of your screen, choose More, Chat, and then All Panelists. You can ask questions at any time. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the basics. We're going to show you how to open a membership as well as go over how to close a membership. So with that, we are going to go into tool number 3, which is open, maintain membership and account. So on this screen here, we can create a membership, update membership info, and add new sub-account. If your member that is in your office currently already has an account and they want to open another account, you can enter in their account base and it'll transfer their information over to this new account. Or if the member is a non-member, you can enter the Social Security number here. So with that, we are going to enter in the Social Security number for our non-member. Okay, so once we have that information, we then can select the membership type. Is it an individual or organization? For this, we're going to say our member is going to be an individual, and we can also select the membership designation. If you click the magnifying glass, you can get a list that is pre-generated by your credit union of options you can choose. We are going to just choose MI for individual.
All right.
So then once we have all of that information, we can then go ahead and enter in the member's information, their name and address and everything like that. A nifty tool that we want to show you, if you actually hit enter, notice how everything or certain fields are red. This is based on your credit union's configuration of required information. So if you're ever wondering what exactly you need to enter in, you hit enter, you can then fill out those required fields. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to enter in our member's first and last name.
And then I do want to point out the name ID. The name ID will always be the first 2 letters of that member's last name.
So then we'll select our member in front of us is a male. We'll enter in their birth date. And then we'll go down and enter in their address. And we'll enter in a phone number as well. Now, if you see that the field isn't required and you still have that information, please feel free to enter it in. The way that I think about it is the more information you have, the better. So if you have the phone number, the full middle name and all of that, go ahead and feel free to enter that stuff in.
And I do want to point out here, now if you're opening an account for a minor, someone that is a minor, instead of putting in a driver's license number, for example, you could put minor here because this field may be required, so at least you have some information in this.
So on the top right side where it says joint owner and beneficiaries, if you want, you can select those boxes to make it part of the procedure. But for this presentation, we're actually going to uncheck the joint owner because later on I want to show you kind of a nifty tool. So we'll be coming back to that later. So once we have all of this information,
we can continue to the next screen. However, if you would like to go and scan in a driver's license at this point, if you notice at the top here next to Imaging Solutions, you could scan the driver's license in at this point in time if you would like.
Okay.
All right.
So once we have all of this and we select enter, what will happen is our member will then run through the OFAC scan. Here we show that this member has no hits, so we're okay to proceed further. And then this person will also run through the blocked person list. So if by any chance this member in the past had an account with your credit union, ended up owing your credit union money, and you had to charge off the account, you can place this person on a blocked persons list. And then what would happen is if they, years down the road tried to reopen an account, they would show up on this list. Here we have no record found, so our member is good. So we can go ahead and continue. All right, so here, if you hit enter again, you can also see what are the required fields within your credit union to pre-filled out. For us, we have the reason code. So if we hit the magnifying glass, we will see a list of all of our reason codes that we have. As to the reason why we're opening this account today. So what referred your member to your credit union? So we'll enter in family member, and then the preferred contact method was another one for us. So what is the preferred contact that the member would like to be reached at? Mm-hmm. Our member, we're going to say home phone.
Mm-hmm. But if they like to be contacted via email, maybe you're working on a loan with them or something, you need to get a hold of them, they're at work, maybe they can email you, it would be a good solution to choose that for that situation. But this member specifically likes to be contacted by home phone.
So then what we can do then is enter in their email address. Okay. And then towards the bottom there, you'll see the overdraft service for ATM and everyday debit card transactions. You'll want to make sure that you go over this with your member to ask them if they would like to either opt in or opt out of this. For this member, we are going to opt him in. They would like to be opted into that.
And for added security, let's say for your call center, for example, if you would like, there's an option here to enter in mother's maiden name and a code word. So a code word would show up on the account and phone operator or teller, showing you that this person has a password or code word on the account to access this account.
All right.
All right, and then I did get a message at the bottom that says the photo ID has not been recorded. On this screen as well, you can actually scan in that driver's license here, or however you do it there at the credit union. That's just letting us know that we have not done that yet.
All right, so this is where we can ultimately give the member an account number or deny the membership. Let's say for whatever reason the member did not qualify for membership, you can select the deny membership, in which will take you into the deny membership form that you can fill out and then hand to the member. For this, we are going to create the membership. So if we go ahead and select the create membership and continue, it is going to generate an account number. So this will be our member's account number. So once we have that, we can go ahead and continue. And on the screen here, we can either enroll the member into their own new household or in an existing household. What this typically is for is if, let's say, mom, dad, brother, sister, all have their own membership there within your credit union, you can enroll them all into the same household. That way, if you have promotional items going out in the mail, there will only be one flyer going out to that household as opposed to 3 or 4. This just helps save paper for your credit union. So we will create a new household, and this member is the head of it. And there, once we enroll them into a household, you'll see at the bottom that it tells you your household ID. So they are enrolled in 009081. All right, so now that we've opened our membership, what will happen next is we will see our generated forms that will pop up, the TIS form, your fee schedule, your normal forms that you would see when opening an account. You can enter through here and those forms will generate. for this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and skip.
And like Megan said, it will continue to populate these forms. I'm going to go ahead and skip these here.
All right, so next we then can open our sub-account that the member would like a secondary savings or a Christmas club. I know especially with Christmas coming around, that can be very nice to have, or checking accounts as well as CDs. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and open a checking account real quick. So we will select our checking product. And then again, it's going to take us to this new account creation screen. The maximum negative balance there on your right will be pre-filled based on your credit union's configuration. Right now we have it pre-filled to set at 0, and we're going to go ahead and keep it there. We will also then ask our member again if they would like to opt in or out of overdraft services for ATM and everyday debit card transactions. Once we have all of this information, we can go ahead and select the create there on the bottom left.
And this takes you to the next screen that will let you add an overdraft protection account for this checking. So it's highlighting this latest suffix that we have opened. So what you do if you want to add an account for overdraft protection, you select it, and you can add up to 4. I do want to point that out. For this, we are going to add the savings as the overdraft source. So what you would do is you already have your account number here. So if I type that in, looks like it's already set to the savings. I'm good to go. So what I need to do now is hit enter and then select update. And you'll see that the savings account has now been added as the overdraft source for the checking.
All right. Go ahead and move it over.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Sorry, we just had to move it over to the screen where our toolbar was covering over our buttons, so we couldn't do anything. Okay. So now that we created our checking, it'll bring us back to this new account creation if we wanted to add other suffixes. What we are going to do, however, we're going to demonstrate on opening a certificate.
Now this is done a little bit differently than like the checking account we just did. So you have your regular shares, or excuse me, your sub shares, your checking, etc., money market. And down below you have open CD. And this will take you to the list of CDs that the credit union has configured into gold.
Now I just want to point out, when opening a CD, if there isn't a minimum balance to open, you will need to fund that CD before creation. So with this, we are going to select the 6-month CD 500 minimum. And we're going to make the CD amount for $500. But with this, our member as of right now does not have any funds. So in order to fund this, we will need to borrow from a good friend.
We're going to borrow from our friend Tony Tiger here. Very generous.
All right, so once we have that, it'll give us the options on how should the dividends be paid. This top portion is preset based on the configuration for the certificate. The bottom portion is how should the certificate be handled at maturity. So this is what you'll want to go over with your member when opening this certificate. How do they want the funds pretty much to be handled at time of maturity? If you select the drop down, you'll see your renewal codes, your auto renew, transfer, and check. If you have it set to auto-renew, it'll auto-renew into a certificate. If you have it transferred, it'll transfer the funds into a suffix that you would select, or if you select check, a check will be cut for this member at time of maturity. So at this time, we'll just go ahead and do transfer. And then we're going to transfer the funds back into our friend Tony's account at time of maturity.
And I do want to point out at the top here, it does assign a suffix. Now we have our certificate at the 300 suffix here. And the maturity date is up here on the bottom right here. Right.
All right, so we're going to go ahead.
Post.
Yep. All right, and then it's going to populate the form that we'll need to go over with the member and have the member sign stating the account opening for the certificate. And then it's going to take us back to our CD creation.
Alrighty, I'm going to back this over here just for a sec to get back. Yeah, there we go. All right, and then I did skip, all I did is hit skip so I could skip on to the next thing. We aren't going to open any more suffixes for this account for the member. So then it takes us on, based on our configuration workflow here, it does give us the option to automatically either enroll our member in e-statements.
And so we have our options to enroll or unenroll, but for this, we're going to enroll our member into statements, the e-statement with no mail copy.
And this is one of many places where you can edit that email address.
Now, just to let you know, later on, if by any chance there need to be changes made to this, you can do this in the member personal banker tool, or if you type in, if you go to the member's account and phone operator or inquiry, you can also update their email address as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So once we have that, it will take us then to update their online banking information. This is configured by your credit union's configuration for the password. Right now we have it set to reset password to the last 4 digits. You will want to make sure that you select this box before the member signs into online banking the first time. If you don't do this, they won't be able to sign in. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to reset their password.
Yep. And this will, for this example, it looks like it gives us that 7 days to use the online banking before it needs to be reset again. In this configuration, they have 1 week to use it, or else the credit union will have to reset the password again for security reasons. And it always will tell you exact time this will expire and what it is set to for that member temporarily.
So when the member logs into their online banking right now, their username is going to be their account number, and then their password right now for this member will be the last 4 digits of their social.
All right, and this screen looks a little familiar probably, and that's a good thing if you see this, because that means you have completed the opening process of this account for the savings, checking, and the CD that we created.
All right, does anybody have any questions so far? Feel free to put anything that you have into the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We're periodically just taking a look at it, just checking to see if anybody has any questions. So like I said, if you have anything, please feel free to ask.
Yep, at any time. Even if it's something we went over a while back, feel free to go ahead and ask questions. That's what we're here for. So,
well, with that being said, I think we can go ahead and then demonstrate how to close an account. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and back out of here.
All right, so if you're wanting to close an account, you can search for close.
Yes, the funds will have to be in an account
the question was CDs can be only funded by transferring.
Sorry. Yes. So the funds will have to be in the account beforehand, because ultimately what you're doing is you're moving the funds from a savings or a checking over to the CD.
Mm-hmm. All right. And before we show you how to close an account, we are actually going to maintenance the joint owner on the account, because there are instances where you open an account and there are more than one member on there.
We actually have a couple more questions that just came in. Where do you set up the screen default? We can actually go over that here shortly. There is a configuration, a workflow configuration on where you can set those. Mm-hmm. Can you edit a CD from auto renew to transfer at maturity date? You most certainly can.
Yes, you can.
You can always edit how that's going to reflect.
Let's see, and that would be in the update. Sub-account. It's in the sub-account maintenance, which is tool 20, not 15. So if I click on my Tucker Lewis account, highlight the certificate. There we go. That's an excellent question, by the way. And that's how you would do that, is right here in this renewal code, we chose this. This can actually be changed in the sub-account maintenance. Good question. Move my screen over to get back up here.
So the next question, if one of the options did not pop up, such as online banking, how do we add that? This is an excellent question. What we'll do is, if by any chance, the online banking didn't pop up, you can go back into Member Personal Banker. Which is tool 14. You can enter in the member's account number, and you can do all of that stuff here. Notice how you have the e-statements, enroll or unenroll. This is where you can enroll them. Okay, let me go ahead and back up here real quick. Okay, so that's how you would do all of that. Now, if any chance you were to, by any chance if you were to happen to miss a form or anything like that, that would be a miscellaneous account form that then you can populate. So by doing that, I'm going to go back here. Member.
Search for account forms.
Well, maybe it's not.
Print.
Huh?
Print miscellaneous.
Thank you. No. It's not on this one. Well, anyway, you would just go to your miscellaneous member account form, which will give you all of those forms that you can then populate and print. How do you run a credit report? You can do that at time of opening. I'm not sure.
It would be part of your workflow. So if I type in workflow, I could go to the open memberships /accounts. There we go. And for this, the training environment, we do have that unchecked. If you want to go into that tool and have that done for account opening, you can edit this right here. And then that way you can have that implemented in there. And that will be pulled very shortly after you put in the member's social security number and name, address information.
And Ruth, thank you for chiming in with the TIS shortcut for the miscellaneous print forms. She just let us know that the miscellaneous print forms is TIS shortcut. So if anybody were to look for that, you just type in the TIS in the shortcut field, that'll take you to that. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you very much.
All right, was there any other questions? I think we
did have a question. How do we process a rate bump for a CD? That is an excellent question. I'd like to do a little research on that if that's okay and get back with you. Thank you so much for that.
Now,
all right.
Was there any other questions?
Regarding opening memberships or anything else so far?
All right, cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you for those good questions. And I am going to actually go back and we are going to show you how to add a joint owner on an account. All right. So that is done. That can be done in the same tool, 3. And like Megan said, we unchecked the joint owner and beneficiary so we could show you how to do it separately if you wanted to do it that way. So what you would do is you would select Update Membership and Info, select our account number, and then you could select Joint Owners and Beneficiaries if you would like to update that. And you can see now that this has been checked again.
So, yep.
So what you would do is you select Add, and it gives you a couple options here. First and foremost, it wants to know if this is a joint owner or a beneficiary. So you would type in the social security number, or if the member, if the individual already had an account at the credit union, you could type in their account base here. So we are going to type in our account base because this person is already a member. We are not going to enroll them in this household. And we have the option to add to all sub-accounts, which we will do. And we also can have the address copied from their primary membership. It saves you some time from having to enter that information and ask that member again. And then if you would like to print the name on the statement, you could do so there. Hit enter. It will take you through that blocked persons database. And then you can see Tony is now joint on this account. So it has his social security number, his name, member type. Now, what I mean by member type is they could be a member, which means they have their own membership, a non-member, which means they don't have their own primary membership, or they could be a closed member. At one point, they did have their own individual account. And then this just states they are not going to have their name printed on the statement based on what I chose. Anything you want to add to this?
No, but I did notice we had a question on the MESR form. How do you add more than 3 JORs? Julie, that's a really good question. I was wondering, would it be all right if I catch with you later after the presentation just to further go over that? Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and write that down.
Thank you, Julie. And for the CD rate bump, while we're on this topic, from CSFCU. Could you please give me a name? If you'd like to send that privately, that's fine, just so I can know who to contact for that information. All right.
Perfect.
Go and skip here. And you can see now that the joint owner has changed from 0 to 1 on all suffixes.
I really like that feature. You don't have to keep.
You don't have to do that each time. And I do want to point out too that this is a modify screen. So this is actually how you could remove someone from the account or suffix or both as well. So just what I mean real quick, and I'll show you that, is I could select the name and hit remove instead. But we'll skip that for now. So we do have our joint owner on the account.
All right, so we've done all of that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over closing an account.
Mm-hmm. And right before we do that though, Megan, I think I want to show them what the account will look like in inquiry here. So I can use my handy hourglass and select my latest account. You'll get a nice little warm welcome message for your member in the member comments. And everything that we typed in, you can see here. I just want to point out a couple things on this. It has the information you typed in with the member, the name, address. Here's our suffixes with the certificate, checking, and regular shares. Anything else you want to add to this part?
No.
Okay.
The account looks good.
Okay. All right.
Here, I'll take you for it back.
All right, so what you can do if you want to find the tool to close the account is you can search for close. It's tool 22, I just know from working with that tool, or it's shortcut close. All right.
All right, so here you will see the run sequence. You have the close account, close memberships, all of that information there. You can do the run sequence if you would like. However, for this demonstration, we're just going to go through one by one. So first, what we will want to do is we will want to redeem our certificate. So we're going to go ahead and put a 1 next to the redeem. Okay. And so then it's going to take us into the certificate of deposit redemption. Here we will go ahead and enter in the CD account and suffix.
All right. I don't remember it. What if I don't remember it?
Well, there is an easy solution to that. Instead of having to back out of what you're doing, if you want to hit the little pause button, it'll bring up the timeout. So then we can go into account inquiry and select the spyglass, view our member's account, and there we go. We now have our suffix.
Exactly. We have our account number and our suffix. So if you do run into that issue, you do not have to back up where you are. It is really neat that we can go ahead and just use that timeout feature to find what we're looking for. Okay.
Bring it along. All right, so now we backed out of our timeout and we are back to where we were at. So then we can enter in our member's account number and the suffix for the CD. And if you happen to not catch the name ID, if you hit enter, you'll get a little message at the bottom that tells you that the name ID is not valid, and it'll tell you the correct name ID.
And then you would want to select full redemption if you're redeeming the whole CD. If you do so, you do not have to enter anything in the partial amount. But if you do, you would select partial and enter that in. But we are going to redeem the entire CD. So if I hit full redemption and enter.
All right, and then you'll get a little warning message just to let you know that the certificate has not matured and that there may be early withdrawal penalties that may apply to this certificate.
This will pop up, even though in this instance we may not have a penalty, it would still give you this warning message.
So here, this is the certificate for deposit redemption screen. On the left in the blue box there, you'll see your current balance. This is where you may see a penalty amount. If by any chance you need to wipe that penalty amount out to give the full CD amount out, go ahead and hit penalty calculator, and you will clear out everything that's within those fields. Okay. And then we will accept the penalty. And what will happen is your penalty amount will now show as 0, and the CD redemption amount is the full amount. On the right there, you have your redemption options. You can cut a check. You can do a transfer amount. Oh, you can cut a check. You can do the transfer amount, and you can also, if by any chance you want to roll it into a different CD, you can also do it here. So for this, we are actually going to give it back to our good friend Tony. Thank you for letting us borrow the funds. All right, and then if you notice right now, okay, perfect. So if you notice, we have everything set, everything is good to go. So once we have our transaction or the transfer amount in the account, we can then go ahead, post, and continue. And that will close out our certificate. So now we can go ahead and finish out the closing process.
And the reason that takes you back to this screen here is if you had more than one certificate you wanted to close, it's nice, it gives you that option to continue to close these certificates.
All right, so it takes us back to our run sequence. So now what we'll want to do is then close accounts. What you'll want to do is if any account has funds in it right now, you will want to move all of those funds into the savings. That just makes the process a lot easier when you're doing this process. So here we'll go ahead and close our account.
Yep, and we'll have to close our accounts before we close the membership. And that is just because the membership, the savings is the membership, and if there are any checking, anything else attached to this account, those would have to be closed first. If they don't have any funds in them, you can close the membership if everything is at 0. However, if there are funds in the account, you will need to go through teller processing and withdraw either by check or phone operator by check, or teller processing by cash, or however the member would like.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, if by any chance you did forget to transfer funds instead of running over to the teller station, you can, again, hit the pause button, go into phone operator and transfer everything, and then once you're done, it'll take you right back to the screen.
Yep. All right, so what we would do is choose our account. This is nice because it does give you that hourglass to click on the account base. I want to say it was a 010. So then you would also need to choose a reason code as well. Again, based on what the credit union has configured as open, close reason codes. This member moved out of the area, so we are going to select that option. Hit enter. There we go. Moving a little slow.
All right, so then it will tell us this is the account that we are closing. It's our checking account. It'll tell you the current balance. If there's a balance in there, you can't close it. So you want to make sure it's at a zero balance. Everything looks good here, so we're going to go ahead and close.
And you will get this message when you are closing a suffix, because once you select continue here, it will be closed. And then it takes you back here, a little bit like the certificate. If you had more suffixes to close, you could keep doing so here. But like I mentioned earlier, we need to close the membership last, and that is all that is left is that savings account. So we will not use this. We will in turn use the close memberships option instead.
All right, final piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So then we will put in our account number one last time, the reason code, and it'll say your savings account. Now, in order to close the savings account as well, you'll have to make sure that's at a zero balance. So this is where you finalize, pretty much everything. And once it's at a zero balance, then we can go ahead and close. Now you will get a confirm message that lets you know, like, hey, doing this, you're gonna close this membership. Once it's done, it's done. You're closing, and you're like, okay, we'll go ahead and continue. And you are done.
And I would like to point out what this looks like after you close the account, because if I go into phone operator or inquiry, you can still see this account, but you can see it's closed. Now, after end of day processing, this will move to the closed file, which could only be seen in member inquiry. But until then, you can actually still see it here in phone operator and inquiry, even though it's still closed.
Now, if you were to, by any chance, close an account or close a membership same day on accident, you can reopen that. Like I said, with same day, it's an easy process. Let's go ahead and we will show you the tool for that. Okay.
There.
Yeah, if I can move that over. Okay. So if your member decided after they closed it, they come back 20 minutes later and say, actually, I want to reopen that. You can do that by this tool here, the 7-11, reopen accounts membership same day. You will select, are you opening just an account or are you opening up the full membership? You would select whichever one you would want to do. So for this, we're just going to reopen his membership. We'll enter in his account number. And then it'll say, oh, that's his name. And then we can go ahead and reopen. And his account will be back there.
And keep in mind, that was just the membership, so that will open the savings. If you would like to go into that tool, you could reopen in 7-11 the checking as well.
So I know every once in a while that will come up, so that's always a nice thing to have because it has not moved over to the closed file yet. Because like what Cody says, that happens end of day. So. All right. So with that, does anybody have questions on closing an account?
Okay.
were a couple of things that I wanted to open up. Frequently asked questions that we get asked as MSRs, or excuse me, CSRs. One of them that we get a lot are the member's last name field. Can we make it longer? We are actually in the works of doing that. If you go to cuanswers.com and you look up the M up, that actually is in process of getting corrected to make to allow more room for those members who have hyphenated names. Oh. So there was a question. Can you show us where to go to reopen one more time? It was 7-Eleven. Thank you, Julie, for putting that. Yep, it is 7-Eleven. You can reopen the membership as well as account.
It might be a good idea even to add that to your favorites if that's something you do on a daily basis, is open and close accounts.
So another frequent question that you may have is, what if the member that walks through your door does not have a Social Security number? Let's say they might be a foreign citizen. What do you do in that instance? Well, in the open maintain membership account in 3, what you would do in this instance is you would then do a global search, because in order to have an account here, you have to have a Social Security number entered into gold. So we will do a global search, create imitation Social Security number. This is going to be you can select member, co-borrower, or joint owner. Here we'll do a member. We'll hit enter, and it will generate an imitation Social Security number that then we can then accept, and it will pre-fill that Social Security number over into the Social Security number field, so then we can proceed further. Okay, so we had a question: how do you add a longer hyphenated name again? Well, currently what we have is the field isn't expanded enough to add a hyphenated name. We are in the works of getting that corrected. It is in our M Up project. You go to cuanswers.com, you can learn more about that for right now.
And we do have another question explaining the process to add a beneficiary and what it means, not a joint owner.
Okay, so beneficiary, what that means is if somebody is listed as beneficiary on an account, they do not have access to those funds at all unless the primary person were to pass away and there were no other joint members on the account.
And we are already in tool 3 where you could do this. So to demonstrate, it's very similar to adding a joint owner. We open that savings back up.
Yeah.
So there we go. They're holding on. So you would select joint owners, beneficiaries again. And then add, and then you would just choose beneficiary. Now I'll show you what it looks like here on, I'm going to use an account that that's been used, I'm sure.
Oh, it has.
We're not going to enroll them in the household, but we will skip that. And then you can see here that the type is a B instead of a J for joint owner. So when you are in teller processing, this who are you serving feature will not include in this instance, James, because this is showing the beneficiary here. They don't have access, like Megan said, to the funds. But if I go to the account, I can show you exactly what I mean. Okay. Uh-oh. Trying to get this back over here. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, I'm not sharing the right one. Well, there we go. If I go into the account, secondary names, you can see that James here is beneficiary and Tony is joint on all suffixes.
Okay, so we have a question. How does a risk assessment / black person's file get run on an imitation social security number? Rachel, that is a very great question. I'd like to do just a little bit more research just to give you a more in-depth response. So would it be all right if I contact you after the presentation? All right, perfect. Thanks, Rachel. I'm going to go ahead and write this down.
All right, and then if CSFCU, if you could just give me a contact, if you'd like to message me privately, that's fine, regarding the rate bump for the CD, just so I have a name and phone number or email, I can contact you back after doing a little digging on that for you. All right. You guys have had excellent questions.
Mm-hmm. Let me see, what else did we have next? We went over that already. We went over that. I think we went over everything that I have. What I would like.
Thank you.
What I would like to do is, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to be sending out a frequently asked letter, or frequently asked questions letter, to everybody who is registered in this course as well, just to give a little more in depth in case we did miss something, or if we went a little too fast, we might be able, with that frequently asked questions letter that I'll be sending out, may be able to help you understand a little bit more, like I said, if we were to happen to go too fast. So I will be going ahead and getting that sent out later today. Were there any other questions that anybody had in regards to the opening and closing process?
I could think of a couple things. If you are closing a membership, always make sure you close out the debit or credit ATM cards prior to closing that suffix, because if you try to close the checking account, it will give you a message saying that there are cards attached to this account and those must be closed before doing so.
Great question, Cody.
Just trying to think of a couple things that people would run into, yeah.
Nope. So, all right. Any more questions? I noticed it's 2:56. We kind of went through that a lot quicker than we expected. So, so if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask them now. We'll go ahead and wait a few more minutes before finishing out, okay?
Mm-hmm. And if you think of anything after the presentation today, always please feel free to call us in Client Services and Education at extension 255. We'd be happy to answer any questions and research any issues regarding gold for you.
Or if you want, I mean, you can reach us directly. My email address is Megan, MEGAN, .Lewis, LEWIS, @cuanswers.com.
All right, so. All right, like we said, we will stick around here. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send us a chat and we will be here for a little bit longer, okay? Thank you so much for joining us today. It was nice being able to go over some open and closed questions and some procedures, and it's just really great to be able to share with you the tools you will need to be able to do so. So